Socky the cat who couldn't say no. Chapter 1. Socky and the Curious Mystery. On a quiet little street lived a very special cat named Socky. He had bright white feet like socks pulled neatly over his paws, and a curious spirit that carried him out into the world every single day. Socky lived with Professor Buttonsworth, a kind, gentle man with spectacles perched on his nose, and ink stains often smudged on his fingers from marking endless papers. Every morning, Professor Buttonsworth filled Socky's bowl with the same amount of cat food, but lately he had noticed something odd. Socky, he said one morning, eyeing the cat's round belly, "You're looking a bit rotund. How can you be growing so plump when I only feed you one bowl?" Socky blinked his big green eyes, stretched his snowy paws, and purred as if nothing were wrong. Then, with a flick of his tail, he slipped out through the cat flap. Adventure awaited. Chapter 2. Mrs. Frizzle and the Gigantic Hat. Socky's first stop was the house of Mrs. Frizzle, an elderly lady with hair that frizzled out in every direction, and a hat so enormous that it could probably shelter a whole flock of sparrows in the rain. "Oh, Socky, my darling cat with the white socks!" she cried, bending down to greet him. "I've saved you a nice bowl of cat food. Come in, come in!" Socky wasted no time. He trotted inside, his whiskers twitching as Mrs. Frizzle set down the bowl. He ate happily while she told him stories about the old days. When the bowl was empty, Socky jumped onto her lap. "Ah," Mrs. Frizzle sighed, stroking his fur. "You're the best company." Socky purred so loudly that her teacup rattled on its saucer. Then, as cats often do, he curled up right there for a cozy nap. When he finally stretched and hopped down, Mrs. Frizzle laughed. "You'll be back tomorrow, won't you, Socky?" Socky gave a slow blink, which meant yes. Chapter 3. Mr. Stubbs and the Wobbly Boots. Further along the street lived Mr. Stubbs, a short, round man who always wore enormous black boots. The boots squeaked and clomped whenever he walked, making him sound a bit like a marching band all on his own. "Well, if it isn't Socky," Mr. Stubbs boomed, wobbling over. "Hungry, are you? I've poured you some cat food." Socky tucked in at once, his tail sticking straight up with delight. When he finished, Mr. Stubbs sat down on the carpet. "Come here, lad," he said, patting his knee. Socky leapt into his lap, kneading with his paws, until Mr. Stubbs chuckled. "Feels like a furry massage." Socky purred, loud and steady. Before long his eyes grew heavy. Mr. Stubbs gently lifted him onto the sofa, where he dozed for a while until a noisy squeak from those giant boots woke him. With a twitch of his whiskers, Socky decided it was time to move on. Chapter 4. The Young Couple and Their Toddler. Socky's next stop was the cheerful yellow house at the corner. Inside lived a young couple and their toddler, a giggly child who adored him. "Socky!" the toddler squealed, clapping chubby hands. Pat, pat, pat. The couple set out a bowl of cat food on the kitchen floor. Socky ate as the toddler crouched beside him, gently patting his back. "Soft kitty," the child whispered, with the biggest smile. After eating, Socky leapt onto the couch. The toddler toddled over and curled up beside him, resting one tiny hand on his warm fur. Socky purred louder than ever, and before long both the cat and the toddler had drifted off for a nap. When Socky woke, he stretched so wide that his paws nearly brushed the child's nose, and then, with a little wiggle of his tail, he slipped out once more. Chapter 5. The Backyard Statue. Behind the tall hedge of the next house lay a wide backyard Socky had never explored before. He leapt through a gap in the fence, tail twitching with curiosity. At the far end of the garden, in the shade of a tree, Socky spotted another cat. Its back was arched, its eyes staring right at him. Socky froze. The fur along his spine prickled. "Misro, he called cautiously. The cat didn't move. Socky crept closer, closer, closer. At last, he was nose to nose with it, and then he realized it wasn't a cat at all. It was a stone statue! Socky sniffed it, gave it a gentle paw bat, and sat back with a confused huff. Up close, its face looked silly, with one ear chipped and its tail pointing straight up like a stick. Fooled me, Socky thought with a twitch of his whiskers. He rolled onto the grass, kicked his paws in the air, and decided this was the perfect spot for a short sunbath before continuing on his way. Chapter 6: The Single Man and Frank the Sausage Dog. At the end of the street lived Mr. Hargrove, a quiet man with kind eyes. His best friend was a sausage dog named Frank, a lively little creature with a body like a loaf of bread and legs the size of pencils. "Socky, old chap," Mr. Hargrove greeted him warmly. "Frank's been waiting for you." Sure enough, Frank barked excitedly and bounded over, his long ears flopping. While Socky tucked into a bowl of cat food, Frank circled him, wagging furiously. After the meal, the two animals chased each other around the living room. Frank was fast, but Socky was clever. He darted onto a chair, then leapt over Frank's back, making Mr. Hargrove laugh so hard he had to wipe his glasses. Eventually, Socky and Frank curled up together on the couch. Frank's little legs twitched in his sleep, and Socky rested his chin on the dog's warm back. Sometimes, Socky even stayed the night here, snoring softly while Mr. Hargrove read his evening paper. Chapter 7: Back Home with Professor Buttonsworth. As the sun set and the streetlights flickered on, Socky padded back toward home. He waddled a little now, his belly swaying gently from side to side. Professor Buttonsworth was waiting at the door. "Socky," he said, peering down at him, "I don't know how you do it. I give you one bowl of food a day, yet you're rounder than a pumpkin." Socky blinked slowly, the way only cats can, and curled his white paws beneath him. He wasn't about to explain his secret visits. The professor sighed, then chuckled. "Well, whatever you're up to, you seem very happy. And that's what matters, my clever little cat." He scooped Socky into his arms and carried him to his favorite chair. Socky purred, long and steady, as he drifted into dreams of neighbours and food, of cuddles and naps, and of a silly stone statue that wasn't a cat at all. No matter how fat he became, Socky was loved on every doorstep of his street. And that was the very best part of all. The end.